Acclimation. Why do we need to acclimate flooring products? Like really, on every single instruction manual or on the box, on any product, pretty much any product I've ever seen, it's always had an issue about acclimation. Please drop the product off at the site 48 to 72 hours beforehand within these temperature bands and this relative humidity. What does it all mean and how does it impact you as either a consumer or as an installer or as a project manager? We need to understand this often overlooked site requirement and why it is so critically important when we're installing laminates, vinyls, engineered, or even SPC. We're going to go back to the studio and we get into the detail on why this site requirement is so important. Let's talk about the laminate floor to start, okay? So laminate floor has an HDF core which is made from wood fiber, which obviously loves responding to moisture and temperature within the environment, and it always wants to balance itself out with the environment. Pretty much like your front door. In the winter, it may want to stick and it jams, yet in summer, it's perfect, and that jammy, sticky door has totally healed and goes away and then comes back the following winter. So it responds to its environment, and so does laminate floor do this. But when laminate floor tries to do this, it does it quite slowly because it's only got that outer edge that it can actually breathe through. You know, the top and the bottom is totally impervious to moisture and air movement, and we need to take this into account. This is also why laminate floor packaging is packaged in cardboard and plastic. That plastic is limiting and controlling the amount of water vapor that moves in and out of that packaging, in and out of that box, as it's sitting from factory through transport to the country and sitting in the warehouse until we open it up and start installing it. So when it comes to laminate floor, we want to temperature acclimate the product. The moisture acclimation will happen over the up and coming weeks and months after it's installed as it balances with its environment. Because remember, laminate floor is moisture, or the moisture content in the floor is balanced for its intended location. That is part of the science of the manufacturing process. So this product wants to balance with its environment. We need to balance laminate floor for approximately 48 to 72 hours. Obviously, each product has its own stipulation, and this is going to be variable depending on the density of the product and depending on if it has like paraffin wax impregnated joint systems, anything that's going to slow down that moisture transfer or air transfer through the product. So when product is moved from one environment to another, okay, it's going to go through a shock like, whoa, I am now moving from one environment to another, and I now need to balance with that environment. And we want to take that gross movement element away from the installation that can actually impact us as we're busy installing the product, that now planks are starting to grow, they're starting to shrink, and the clicks are hard to get together, or the planks are twisting. This is very much like any of the other products as well. These symptoms will come about during that installation phase. So depending on the product, they're going to be growing at a high rate of knots, and to take that stress and strain out of the install and out of potentially causing us a whole lot more problems down the line, acclimation, balancing and settling and calming this product down before it gets installed is absolutely critical. Now let's get to engineered. Engineered is even more responsive than laminate floor because now you've got between 5 and 6 of the surface areas that can breathe, okay? So it can absorb water vapor, it can absorb temperature fluctuation, air movement a whole lot quicker, and it has a whole lot more opportunity to move very quickly from opening up the plastic on the wrapper through to installing the plank. So again, we want to make sure that the product is temperature acclimated. These engineered products are also wrapped up in plastic. And if you are getting into the science, because remember, this video is all about just touching the surface, it goes a whole lot deeper. And as a great installer, you want to understand the science so that you can safeguard your install and secure the longevity of your client's investment. If you are installing a product that is moving, say, from the interior, Johannesburg or Cape Town, and you're moving the product to Durban, now we know that Durban is a lot more humid, Cape Town is potentially a lot drier. We want to make sure that the product is going to be nice and stable. Now, there's quite a gross difference between the two environments, and now we need to switch on our science understanding of the product, and that's where products will now start needing to get moisture acclimated. So that's when we have to start opening up boxes, pin stacking it, and allowing it to moisture acclimate as well as temperature acclimate. If we don't do this and we just install straight out of the box, while we're installing, that plank is going to start growing and start causing all sorts of knock-on issues, as I've already mentioned, and that's where problems start to occur. Unfortunately, acclimation does not start and stop with wood fiber products like laminates or engineered. It's also with our vinyls, our SBCs as well. So vinyl is thermoresponsive. It responds to temperature, and it responds to temperature very quickly, within seconds. All right, so we've done previous videos where we've shown you a plank that's sitting in the shadow of my lounge, and then I move it into the sun, a sunny spot, and it changed by 1-2 millimeters within 10 minutes. All right, that is gross movement. And imagine if that product is now moving while you're trying to glue it down, and now it's compromising that glued joint. Planks are potentially pushing up against each other, all sorts of craziness. And now that sunspot is actually moving across your floor as you're finishing up your install. How crazy is that? How is that going to actually ever hold together throughout the lifespan of the product? That's where you get gapping, you get peaking, you get all sorts of craziness. So what we do to prevent that is we need to control that environment that we're busy installing in. So like any of these products, you want to control the temperature, if you can, the RH or the moisture vapor within the environment. And now, yes, we're not like Europe or America where we have climate controlled environments. Maybe we might have an aircon, but we're not controlling the moisture vapor. So we still have to try our best in managing the site. Installing during a monsoon, the rainy period, can really impact your installation, and you need to work closely with your project or site manager on how you're going to control open windows, other contractors moving through the site, and whether the house is lived in currently or not. These are all elements that are going to adjust the temperature and adjust the environment that these floors need to acclimate to. When we get to SBC, obviously SBC is the new kid on the block. It's a very heat stable product, but it still does move. And while these products are responsive to moisture as well, the moisture responsiveness is very slow. So that can happen a little bit later, but what we need to control is the temperature. Again, like engineered responding to moisture, SBC can respond to temperature, and the planks can be a little bit harder to click together, a little bit more troublesome, and that's what we want to safeguard. Ultimately, great installers need to understand how the products that they're installing respond to the environment. Installers are responsible for allowing that gross movement to happen during the acclimation phase so that it's not happening during the installation phase. If we can understand these basic concepts, we are making a huge step in safeguarding the products, because when these products move and they start impacting transition strips and pushing up against walls or slightly tight expansion gaps, that's where the majority of our failures are occurring. Acclimation of these products is absolutely mission critical, and I strongly advise that you start understanding the science and not taking it for granted. Well, how do we acclimate these products? Well, it's pretty simple. We want to make sure that it's in an average environment, temperature, place within the intended installation site. So it's not next to a sunny window, it's not next to a cold wall, it's not sitting directly on the floor surface. It is slightly raised, maybe on some timber strips. The boxes are pin racked, meaning that you are layering them up, maybe 4 or 5 wide with gaps in between, so that air can flow through and between these boxes. That's absolutely mission critical. Imagine if I had to put all these boxes together as a one big block, like a pallet of flooring. The temperature has to impact from the outside all the way through to the core. So like when you defrost your chicken, it might be perfectly acclimated on the outside, but that inside core is still frozen. So as we pin rack the boxes in the space where the air is flowing, we are accelerating that acclimation process, and we are getting that product relaxed and ready for installation. Remember, there's a difference between a construction site and a lived-in home. If you're acclimating to a construction site and you have not controlled the environment of which this floor is going to be installed, that floor, once installed, is then going to acclimate to the living conditions as well. And that's where that floor is actually going to grow or shrink, most probably grow, during those first initial weeks and months of the home being lived in. And that again is where products can start to fail. I understand that acclimating a product can be troublesome for the installer, the homeowner, having product just sitting in your lounge for a couple of days prior to installation when you're having to live around that product, the installer having to go back twice to a venue, which may be a little bit awkward to get through to. It slows down the process and it's awkward. Unfortunately, this is the process that's going to safeguard the product and give you the return with a nice stable floor for the long term. It's there for a reason. There's a reason that it's on every single flooring manufacturer's installation guidelines and within their warranties. Let's be awesome. Let's be professional. Let's acclimate our floors. If you found this video informative, please hit the bell, leave us a comment, ask us a question. We're here to learn, we're here to elevate, and we're here to take floors from good to great.